a number of people have moved towards the borders and in many cases across the borders into neighboring countries in Europe. Many of them have gone to Poland, also a significant number to Moldova, and smaller numbers to countries like Romania and Slovakia. But I think it's very important to stress that the European Union and those countries around the border, particularly Poland and Moldova, have been very positive and very welcoming, even though the situation is very chaotic. And we know that there are big tailbacks of people trying to get into those countries right now. There was already a large number of internally displaced people in Ukraine, which predated this conflict, going back to the previous one. The figures that we had were that 850,000 people were already displaced internally. And of course, the big concern is for those people who are most vulnerable, as you said, women and children in particular, and whether they can get to safety, get to safe shelters. That's the big question. In terms of our activity within the country, yes, we have a number of offices in the country. We have over 100 staff in the country, but there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes here in Geneva, but also in the region to make sure that the supplies are in place and that they're pre-positioned.
Can you tell me what kind of supplies are you talking about?
In the build up to this crisis, we did pre-position supplies both within the country, but also in the region as well, in those countries that border the Ukraine. You're talking about things like blankets, shelters, food kits, hygiene kits, and in some cases medical supplies and PPE and those kind of things, the real basic necessities that people need when they've been forced to flee their homes and live in temporary and in many cases very basic accommodation.
Some Russian media has been asking that question. Let me also present it here. The threat of sanctions and the impacts of sanctions on the people in Russia, and they wonder whether that is also of humanitarian concern. Now, I know you are not involved in politics. Tell me more about the UNHCR's approach about conflicts on both sides.
Well, as you said, we don't enter into the questions of sanctions and politics. When there is a conflict, our duty is impartiality, and it's the humanitarian imperative. So we go in to help anyone who has been affected by conflict. And as soon as there is access, we, with our partners within the UN and those NGOs I mentioned earlier, we're ready to move in and help anyone who is in need, whatever their political persuasion or whichever country they come from.